Successful business doesn't happen overnight. It takes a lot of hard work, dedication, and persistence, which is what Coffee Hustle is all about. So there's no quick fixes here. It's just candid conversations featuring other successful business owners.
Hi, I'm Carla Stiles, and I'm with Coffee and Hustle podcast. And I've always wanted to share stories and candid conversations with those that have very successful businesses and those that are in our community leadership with that are impactful stories that we can share those journeys that we're doing today. And having you, Dr. Pat Sims, who is the president of Drake State Community and Technical College here in Huntsville, to share her success and maybe share a little bit of the journey that from where she started today. I just want to share her excellence and leadership and knowledge that is what you see today for us. So welcome to our podcast today.
Oh, thank you. I'm excited to be here, Carla. This is going to be fun.
Listen, it is an absolute honor to be somewhere around someone that is really especially spectacular as you are. I met you through the WDC Foundation.
Mm-hmm.
And
one of our favorites.
Yes, absolutely. Mm-hmm. It's a great program. And I have to say that when I meet you and I come to these events, I think you're just a radiant of sunshine. And every time I come up to you, you're always welcoming, you're approachable. And I just want to talk about that program. Why did you get involved in it and why it was so important for you to be part of the WDC Foundation at that point?
Oh, so I'm so excited. First, thank you again for having me on Coffee and Hustle. Yay, I'm excited to be here. But WDC, and the thing is, the WDC Foundation and the organization, but the foundation is such a great organization that any woman who commits her time, I know that those are my people already, because that means that they're committed to empowering young women. And that's what made that organization so special. I've seen the impact that it has on the lives of the young women that we work with, the mentoring, the professional development, guidance and counseling, the financial support. And so it's just such a worthwhile cause. And it's all about giving back, paying it forward, climbing and lifting. And so that's what we have to do for our young people. And so it was an honor for me to serve. And I loved it so much. I served 2 terms on the board. So while I've recently stepped down. Right. But I'll still be a staunch supporter. I am a cheerleader for WDC Foundation.
Well, I had to say that, I think the December event that they hosted for the mentors and scholars, I think it was one of the best ones that I've seen so far. To be honest with you, there was almost like this real coming together moment where you actually can start seeing those friendships being created. Because when you go into a program and you don't know anybody, right? You're just like, where do I start? And I think the leadership that the board gives and, all of the people, including the mentors, are such a great impact for that entire foundation. And so you can see those changes from the time the newbies come in, right, to the time that they leave. There's this huge transformation.
This whole maturation process. Right. And a lot of that I attribute to Jennifer. Her leadership, her creating meaningful, intentional opportunities for the mentors to connect, the mentors and mentees to connect to each other, and just among the group, the board. she really pours her heart into that. And it's such a worthwhile organization. So those of you who are not familiar with the EDC Foundation, please visit the website and look at the great work that we do across our community. And we invite you to join us in that effort.
Yeah, and I think it's just an impactful plea because I don't know about you, but back in my day when I was growing up, if we look at inspiration and people we look toward to help us through the things and guide us, I think there was a lack of that back in those days.
Yes.
I think it was very far in between where you see the perfect family.
Absolutely.
And so you're from Mississippi, right? So give us a little bit of your home life back in the Mississippi, because I'm from LA.
Yes, that
counts. For those who don't know, that's Lower Alabama.
So we were practically neighbors, being from Mississippi, Lower Alabama. So Canton, Mississippi was a very small rural town. The interesting thing is that when I go home now, Nissan moved in, and much like Hyundai, any large automotive manufacturing facility moving in, it has transformed that small community. But when I was there, it was just that family of 5, and I lived in my little family bubble. And so my brothers we grew up, and I didn't know I was poor.
Yeah.
Because I lived in my bubble. We went to church together. We went to school together. It was the same people.
Yeah.
And so when I'm sometimes embarrassed to say this because it shows how shifted I was, but when I went off to college.
Was it eye-opening for you?
It was, and the vast difference.
You were exposed to a lot of things?
A lot of things that I had not seen. And so, but they were good. I mean, it was good, and it was good for me.
Yeah.
Because the good thing is that even though I was in a small family, I had a solid foundation, very spiritual upbringing, and great work. My mom worked us really hard, so I had a great work ethic, and so no matter what happens, those core values still ground you. And I think, and so I'm very fortunate in that way.
So do you feel like that in some ways or another is so important? We have those support systems at a very early age.
Absolutely. And so the thing is, I was surrounded by, my mom was the oldest of 14, so I was surrounded by like aunts and uncles and cousins. So it wasn't the mentor of what WDC offers, but another form of that in the form of family. And so, because it's just like family, it didn't always look the same, right? And so I was very fortunate in that regard. And so fast forward now, I see a lot of tenets of that growing out of the WDC organization and the relationship with the mentors and mentees and getting connected and them being supported and encouraged on, and just having a cheerleader.
Yeah, I think it's important that we get involved. And,
absolutely.
you know, and when we go back to at an early age, you know, the school systems were not supportive. You know, I was a kid that was very quiet. And I know
You
that's
were not. I know it is.
Yeah, I was.
Okay.
I was a very quiet.
Okay. Okay.
I was a very quiet child.
Okay.
I think I've actually discovered, you know, after so many years, you start to really like, okay, it takes 1 or 2% to really believe in you, and when you recognize that, you're like, okay, it's okay to be me, and I think that's important.
On your voice,
yes,
yes,
it's like,
absolutely.
you know, I like to be authentic, and but when I was growing up at a very young age, it was if I could tell you my story, I think that people would be a little surprised because, you know, for me, I was in slow classes, I didn't read well, I didn't love school until I got into where I felt comfortable, and so as I enjoyed school, I started getting more involved, and so growing up, I always had some dream. I didn't know what it was. I knew that I wanted more.
Yes.
But I am the only girl in my family that has a college education.
Wow.
And so when you meet other people that along the way, and I think it's so important to tell our story,
I
do
agree.
that.
It's important. It's so important because when people see you today and they don't see the struggle, they don't know that it's possible. And so that's one of the things, and I know many people who don't share, who try to hide the struggle that they've gone through to get where they are. They want it to appear that they've always been there, and that's who they are. But I know how much it has meant to me to see and hear from women, and whether it's personal, as in parenting, marriage, I mean, just professionally, who've had struggles and the strategies and the tools and the things that they use to work through that, because it's so helpful. People need to know that you can overcome the barriers, the struggles, whatever they are.
So you had this great bubble, as you say, and then you decided to go off to college.
Yes, because I wanted more. I wanted different. My aunts, you know, all of those aunts and uncles, all of them except 2 stayed home. They stayed right there in that circle and raised families.
And that's just where they stayed.
That's where they stayed. Yes. And I knew the best thing, the most transformative thing that happened to me, Carla, was in 2nd grade. My 2nd grade teacher saw something in me. She took me to the library and got me a library card.
And that changed your life?
That changed my life because it opened up the world of reading and books.
Yeah.
And so I started reading everything I could get my hands on. So and mental in my mind, I got to have different experiences, although I didn't have them in my daily life. But I knew there was more because
So you
they
did
were
when you
books.
did the reading. So I was a reader,
Yes,
and so
I was a reader.
I was in that moment where I could pretend to be that person.
Absolutely.
And no matter what was going on
I could
around
immerse
you,
myself.
you could, you were
Yes.
definitely focused, and then I think that's so important. And I think we've lost that art a little bit.
Yes.
I think we've lost the aspect of reading as an inspirational aspect of teaching children that it's okay to read and it's okay to, not, to be educated and be better than us, I think, in some ways or another.
And even just for enjoyment, but that was transformative for me and put me on a path, a trajectory that I don't know. I mean, it really started something because it ignited a fire in me. And so I told you we lived in the country, so my mom would go to town on Saturdays to do groceries and laundry. Yeah. And so she would, after I got that library card, she would drop me off at the library and she'd go do all those things and pick me up, and I'd sit there and read all day and then come out with a stack of books, and the next week I'd take them back. And so it was just that was my life, and I loved it. And especially that made life so much more bearable, especially long summers. But we didn't have summer camps. My parents couldn't afford to send us in a place. We were just home. And so books were my friend.
Or you were outside playing.
Yeah, outside. You had to be out in the dirt all day. It's hot, drinking water from outside.
Yes,
so
I know people joke about it. And I know
it's real.
It's real. We lived outside. We lived out on our 10 speeds or we were running and playing in the dirt.
Yes.
And if it was raining, we were outside. And I don't think we ever really went inside unless it was thunder
and you had to have
lightning.
permission, right? You don't just go in and out. Well, in my house, it's time to come in for a break. Yeah, right. Don't keep going in and out. So, but those are, and so things that I didn't think about then were just, and the other thing is my parents, because there were 5 of us, we grew what we ate. And so, and I mean, literally, so we had gardens. My parents would slaughter like a pig and then like a calf each year. So literally. And so in the summers for extra money, we'd have to get up and pick vegetables and take them to market and sell them.
We are very similar.
Yeah.
Yeah, I grew up that way as well. I mean, we grew up on a farm. We, we rotate our crops, and we had corn in one year and soybeans the next, or peanuts the next. But we had a huge garden in the very back, and then we got to pick whatever we wanted, and then we would allow other people to come in and pick what was, left over, because we would have abundancy.
Right.
But yes, summers were meant to pick butter beans and peas and sit there and shuck them and blanch them and put them up, and
that is hilarious.
And I would go to the community pool. My hands were just pure green,
purple,
from purple and green. So very similar childhoods.
And so, but that developed a work ethic, and so we were the least favorite house in the neighborhood, because if you came to our house, I'd have my bushel, we all had our bushel. So if our friends wanted to visit with us, they had to get a bowl and help shell, and so they weren't having it. So we were the least favorite house, but
they'll come eat it though.
Yeah, of course. But it taught discipline and work ethic and all the the things that it takes to ground you, and persistence, because I couldn't go anywhere until it was done. So I got to finish it.
Back then?
I hated it.
I want to know. I
hated it. I hated it. I'm so thankful for it now.
Yeah, you think of it back then.
Yeah, but then, of course, a teenager, you want to do.
You just want to do your thing.
Yeah, fun stuff. And so, yes. And so high school was that. And so the other transformational thing that happened is in high school, I was a decent student. I didn't do my best, but I had extra credit, so I got to work in the counselor's office to assist a high school counselor. And so college wasn't even on my radar until I got to her office, and I had all the letters and the things from the recruiters were coming in, and she's the one who helped me, encouraged me to fill out a financial aid application, apply for scholarships, and they
didn't have those things back in school. I don't remember. I think I think toward the end of my senior year, I can remember they started doing these we had honor programs, but they started kind of putting those AP classes in front of us at the first time. But I do remember that in school. And I think that if we could go back and change things, if you could go back and look at your 15-year-old self, could you go back and say, I would have done some things different? Or do you feel like that the path that you've taken has led you to where you're at today?
No, I would have. I'm sure there's some decisions I would have made differently, but those key moments that now that I see that were very transformational and impactful in my life, I wouldn't change them because they, again, reset my trajectory. And the other thing is I've just been really fortunate that every place I've landed, I found good people and good friends.
I think that's so important.
That is.
You know, and I think that sometimes we think that what happens to us sets us behind, right? And we all, there's days where you wake up and you feel like you're going 2 steps backwards and you're not forward. But I do think people need to understand that no matter what path you're on, you're in control of your destiny. And if you know that there's that chance of you thinking this is a better path for me, take it. You never know when opportunities look in front of you.
That is so true. And then the other thing, and not making assumptions about people or the opportunities that are in front of you. The value and the wisdom that each person that you encounter has something to offer, you know, that you can learn from. And so I think that's really, really important. And being, and I tell students all the time, I tell my daughter, the windows of opportunities, they open and close very quickly. So when it opens, you be ready to jump. You just dive in, right? Because no matter what it is, because you may not get that opportunity and you just don't ever know where you end up. It's just amazing the way things can come together for you.
So you go to college. Has education always been a part of your life?
No, so that's, being in education was the thing that I did not want to do.
What was it that you wanted to do?
I wanted to be a research scientist, something in the medical, so my undergraduate degree is in biology and master's degrees in biology with education, because I knew I was on a research track. Didn't know quite where, but I wanted to do that. I loved being in the lab. But the interesting thing is, while I'm in college, my advisor, who's still a dear friend, I still visit with him now, he and his wife. I'm one of their academic children. I have a picture of my academic siblings over there. And so one of my favorite classes was anatomy and physiology.
Right.
So in the labs, I'm just somehow just evolved to tutoring, leading a tutorial group. And so, and my advisor comes in the lab, several times he just sit, you know, I'm not thinking he's paying attention. We're doing our thing, getting ready for the test. And after he said, Patricia, have you thought about education? You do a good job with that. And I was like, I am not going to be a teacher. You know, because I feel like that was the traditional path. So I want to do something off the beaten path. And so I go on, and then I'm getting close to graduation, and I love history. And I had the best history professor at West Alabama.
Your life?
Yeah, because he was like, you should think of graduate school. I didn't even know what graduate school was.
I did.
I know, and who thinks about that? He said, have you thought
I'm just
about
lucky to be in class.
I know, right? To be here. And you should think about education. And so I went back, I said, well, he said I should think about graduate school. How do I do that? So those kinds of things. But I graduate from college, and I actually come to Huntsville after I graduate from West Alabama, research with the EPA, doing on a research project, because that's what I was going to be, a researcher. And then it got time to go to start classes in the fall. I did that for a summer, and I decided to stay at Alabama A&M, and I met my husband. And when I met him, I knew I wanted to get married. And so I didn't want to research so much anymore. I wanted to, you know, and the state needed science teachers, and so it just worked out that I got to stay here.
One thing led to another thing. It was like that domino effect.
Yeah, and so things just
and here you
fall in
are.
place. And here I am. And so the crazy thing is, so I get hired. So my career has always been in Huntsville. So I started my career in Huntsville City Schools. And have you ever been to Campus 805 to the hatchet throwing?
Oh, yeah.
Well, you've been in my classroom. That was my first classroom at Stone Middle School.
We need to talk about how hot it gets in there.
Yeah. So, well, I don't have anything to do with that, Carla, but that was my classroom. That upstairs corner room, that was my first classroom when I became a science teacher at Stone Middle School back in 1992.
Oh, that's amazing.
So, yes.
I like the fact that they transformed that building, though, into something and repurposed it instead of like taking it down. And you see the way they did it.
And they got such great spaces. I love going to Campus 805.
I thought they were crazy when they first started it. I was like, there's no way. And then it just is, I think it's just worked out so well for them down there.
That speaks for our city, you know, so many amazing things. But yes.
I love the fact that they've taken things and like even Low Mill and turn them into something that's fascinating and that we're embracing the arts.
Oh, yes.
The way we should, because I think it's so important to have that as as we, as our children grow up, sharing arts and music, I think, is so vital I think, or even part of our education.
Oh, absolutely.
And you talk about reading books. I don't know about you, but I used to read my encyclopedias, a lot. And so that's how I identified outside the world.
Really?
Right. And so, because we didn't have internet back then.
Yeah,
so how did, of course we had the PBS show where
we had like 3 channels. Yeah,
I think it was Jacques Cousteau that changed my life.
Wow.
I wanted to go into oceanography. And
interesting. So
yes,
you were a science person too.
I loved it. I just, I wanted to follow whales around, and that was the thing. And then, so when I went into, I think it was South Alabama, I was going to go to school there, and I sent them a note saying, this is my passion, this is my dream, and because I wanted to be part of Greenpeace at the time, and so I wanted to save life. I guess that's my passion, and so. They sent me a letter, said there's no real jobs in this, and I was like, oh, it was just a heartbreaker for me. So
they sent you a letter?
Yeah, so they were saying, it was kind of like one of those letters of I was excited, and then it was disappointing at the same time, and I'm like, wow, what do I go to school for? And then I had a lady by the name of Miss Axtell who came to our school, and we were the first computer class, and all these big monitors, and I learned how to program in BASIC. And you learned how to pay, and I was just intrigued. I'm like, you can do this kind of stuff. And so I love the creativity because I was always in art and I was always in dance. And then you were
able to apply that to program.
Yeah, I programmed. Oh. That's how I started out as a programmer. So I think it's certain people in our lives like that. I had a dance teacher, Miss Lindsay Hall, that was a huge inspiration when I was younger. And she was just one of those that said always, can't, never could, never would. And I was like, well, and it has stuck with me all my life. So if I can't do something, well, how am I going to know if it didn't work? And so I think those learning lessons as we grow older,
People are planted in our life. Yes,
but I like the fact that you say this thing that when you look at people, you don't really know their story.
You don't know their
story. The journey is the beginning, right? So you get involved and you're just, okay, so I'm going to put this out here, and I think I mentioned it to you before, is that I know you from what we do. Well, when we set up this podcast and I get your bio, it was so incredible. Do you kind of reflect back and going, how do you get involved in all these things? Because you're involved in the community. Here you are, the president. How do the word, I think, pathways really stuck. That was written in your bio, and the pathways, I think, is really one of those valuable words that I think that really stuck with me when I was reading it. And I think that you're trying to really put all that you're doing into this community. How did you get involved in community? How did you get involved in your community like this?
So growing up, my mom, the 5 of us, community service has always been a part of my life. So my dad had a truck, and we would have to get in the back of the truck on Saturday evenings or Sunday afternoons, and we would go around to all of the elderly people in our community, and we have to clean up their houses and pick up their yards and do all the things, wash their dishes.
So this is something that he wanted y'all to do?
My mom.
Your mom?
My mom had us to do that. So I've always had to give back to my community. It was what we did.
That's incredible.
Yeah, and so that has always stuck with me. So whatever organization I'm in, I want to be, it's not just a member, I have to be engaged in it, because that's the way, that was the expectation.
You want to be a representation and not be an outside representation.
Yeah, well, it's one thing to just hold a seat, but if I'm going to, especially, and I felt that in the past, but now, because time is so limited, the things that I sign up to do, if I can't add value and really participate and engage and see that it's helping people, then I don't want to do it. A lot of people, there are people who want to build resumes, but I am genuine. I love the organizations that I support.
I can definitely, listen, when I say that you're genuine, sometimes you go to certain things and you go to certain events and you meet certain people. There's a magnet for certain, and I think that somehow, I don't know how we ended up, we're always like just,
yes, it's your great energy. Oh. Yes, it's yes.
Well, I think it has to be a combination of both, and I sometimes when we're crossing paths, we want to connect with those people. So it was really an honor when I was actually teasing you. I was like, let's do a podcast together.
I know, right?
And you were like, yes. And I'm like, oh my gosh, you're serious?
I mean, yeah, that's fun because I admire you've done such good work, and another part of WDC Foundation and the recognition that it's currently enjoying in our community is the work that you've done to elevate it. And so I admire. I mean, it's amazing, and so
you.
Absolutely, this is an honor for me.
Well, I think that in some ways or another, I think that I've always been the one hiding behind the scenes, doing my thing. I'm not. For me, it's not about the glamour and the glitz and being in front of every single photo. I like to work hard, and that's just been my method for years. And so, I didn't really believe in myself for, when I first started my business, it was kind of by accident, and it was just like you said, that small window of opportunity doesn't stay open very long. And so you have to capture those opportunities. And I think that's the one thing that I really want people to understand is that you don't have to feel stuck. And putting yourself around those people that really understand you is so important. And so your circle is going to get smaller and smaller and smaller, but it's really important on who's in that circle.
Absolutely.
So out of all of the community services, and I'm not trying to say that you have to pick one.
Okay. All right. Okay.
But which of those really mean, like, to you, like, what is the one that really sticks out to you that's passionate? Do you feel like all of them are?
I do. I get different. I mean, there are different parts of me that I think are interesting is tied to both of them. So I love our city. So being a part of Downtown Huntsville Inc. is amazing.
Yeah.
Because one of the things that it's a goal of me to many of my students they don't enjoy and appreciate downtown. So it's been great to be able to find ways to connect them so that they can enjoy their city and know all the great opportunities, right? So Huntsville Hospital Foundation, I love the work that.
Is that the one that you just joined on?
Yes.
Recently.
And so that was an honor. And, we're doing they are a great partner for the college and have worked with us to build an alternative pathways program for our LPN students who want careers in nursing, who may not have been able to enter the program the traditional way through with standardized test scores and all that.
Yeah.
So that level of engagement to be able to provide that opportunity for a segment of our community who otherwise would not be able to advance their careers. I mean, to be able to support that work. I think that word
pathways, again, is so important because I think that's so part of who you are because the opportunities that you're creating with, Drake State and then all the students. The conversation that we're having is about pathways, right?
Yes.
You are creating this pathway.
Yes.
And that is part of your mission of creating those things that you're doing. Do you feel like that you see a student come in and then when they get ready to leave, you're seeing this transformation?
Yes. And you know what, Carla, that's why I love being at the community college. So I've worked in P12. I did a stint at university at Athens State University and the community college system. So I've had the opportunity to work in all three areas of education. Okay. The community college is the most transformative. So I am so excited. I can see a student come in and they can participate. We can expose them to opportunities to participate in organizations, have downtown experiences, go travel and do some things. Many of my students haven't left the city of Huntsville. And so to provide those opportunities, give them the training that they need, a certification, an industry credential that will give them a job. And to see the confidence that student leaves this institution with is so rewarding to me personally. And so I almost feel guilty some days because I'm excited. It excites me, and
they're not really realizing what's happening to them.
No, they do. Many of them do. Our more mature students, because we have our average age is 28, so we serve a lot of non-traditional students who life has happened. They may not have had an opportunity to go to school for whatever reason. So they're at a point now where they want to do this. They recognize the importance of training. And they're ready, right? And so that's an instant transformation for not only that student, but their family, which that carries over into our school system, our community, our churches. I mean, their ripple effect is absolutely amazing. And so that's the investment, that's the return. And I don't know if you can really measure that return on investment, right? And so, but it is so exciting. It's so rewarding for me. And that's what I live for every day.
Well, I think you're, I think you're the inspiration that I think a lot of people should look up to, because it takes a lot. At some point in time, you're like, I've worked really hard. I've gotten where I'm at. Do you ever feel like, what does downtime look like for you? Like, what do you like doing?
So actually, so we were talking about reading, and I have to admit, Carla, with the pace of my life, I have transitioned to Audible. And so,
I forgive you.
I do read when I get a chance, like my Bible. There's a few things, but for the most part, it's Audible. Yeah. And so downtown I have wonderful different circles of girlfriends that I love spending time with, and my family, of course. I have a daughter who's Kirsten, she's here in the city, and we have the best time together. And I have a husband of 30 years, so we spend time together. And my mother's here. I'm a full-time caregiver for my mom as well.
Now she's moved from Mississippi.
Yes, so she had some health issues, and so she's here with me. And so that, and along with church and my sorority and in my organizations, it's like all my time is here.
You are a powerhouse. Yes. You know that, because I think that sometimes, there's a point in time where you go, okay, what do I need to take off my list? Do you ever feel like you have to go through that list a little bit?
I do. I purged it. And so the thing is, I mentioned the 2 years, the ending of my WEDC term. It's time, because I've got to carve out more space. My mom's health is declining, so that takes more time. And so life paces itself in a way that makes sense. And so as I'm rotating off, I'm just trying to be, and that's why it's so important that I choose opportunities that I can really engage in, because now I really have to make sure it fits with the life of the college, because you can see we're renovating and trying to grow, and so it has to. That requires more from me. And
I look around your office, and I'm just like, I'm just stunned. You have such a successful style about yourself, and then you have this aspect of just continuing to add more. And then, but I think self-reflection is important, and I think you know how to do that. A lot of people don't.
Oh yeah, I have to check out, and I spend a lot of time alone. Recently I had a day. I just have a day to and I journal. Journal is very...
That's important.
Oh yeah, and reflect. And I just enjoy looking back a year, and I've been here for looking back on the time, and that encourages me, because things are, and I feel like we're making progress.
So do you have a plan of action, and what does your future look like right now, or are you're kind of rolling the dice to see where it takes you?
So right now, my main focus is to improve and upgrade this campus, right? And so that's taken a lot, because I need community support, and so we're trying to make sure that we're doing the things that we need to do to earn the confidence of the community. So that's important. And then trying to really right now spending as much time with my mom as I can, because
that's so important.
Yes,
she sounds like, to me, one of those people that honestly gave you this spark that's inside you now, and so you want to continue fulfilling that, right?
I have to, right?
I think that's important.
And I want to make sure, and so after that, we'll see what happens. I'm enjoying what I'm doing.
You are amazing.
Yes, you're so kind.
Literally amazing. I was flattered and honored to see someone that, you work so hard. And you're so humble at the same time, and I think that, as you meet people in your life, right, you want to meet people that inspire you to be better, and you have made that for me. So and I'm not trying to make you cry, don't cry. But I do think that you are, I think that you're, a staple of this person that I would look up to. If I was a student and I needed some guidance and I needed some inspiration, I would definitely, look at you and go, wow, she's just that inspiration that I needed. Because when we were younger, we didn't have it. I don't remember having really much of a female, someone that inspired me. It just was within us.
Right.
Somehow.
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely.
We dug out of that hole.
Yes.
Right.
Claw your way out. Right.
Yeah, you clawed your way out.
And then there's just so much happening now. There's so much noise. So it becomes really important now. So I agree. I want to be there for my students. And you are that too. You are a bright light in this community.
Oh, thank you.
I
think and we talk about noise. Noise can cloud our judgment. And so when we're so focused on, you know, what's going on in the media and social media and all those things, we have to be you have to kind of turn it off and in tune to be a better person.
Yes, I just check out of social media and just focus on doing the next thing.
If there's anything that you wanted to say, what would you say right now? Like, what would you share about yourself that you would want us to know?
I don't know if there's anything new, because I think I'm so transparent. Like, every time I talk to people, I just like spill my guts, and I'm like, my husband's like, should you have told
Are you
them
one of
all
those that walks around with, like, you can tell if your facial expression, I'm mad, sad, happy?
No, I don't. I try to be consistent, because I think that's and balanced, you know, all the time. But it's just that telling the story, I don't feel the need to try to pretend that life has been a bed of roses. It has not. There have been struggles, but the good thing is that, you know, I still feel so fortunate, so blessed to be here, to be in this community.
Yeah.
This is this is a supportive community, and the opportunities, and so I'm really thankful.
I think that's
for
important.
that.
Surrounding yourself with that and that community support. You're part of the community.
Absolutely.
You know, and if you're not part of the community, get involved.
Get involved. I mean, there's so many opportunities.
It changes your life.
It changes your whole perspective.
You're not alone, and I think that at some point in time, when you look at your community service and you're part of that community service, you'll see that transition, and you will also change.
Yes,
your
it
perspectives
does.
change. So thank you for coming on my Coffee and Hustle podcast.
Thank you for having me, Carla. This has been so much fun. Okay, I love it. Thank you for inviting me.
I really enjoy you. I enjoy your personality. I enjoy being around you. And so thank you for, hopefully maybe we could do another one soon.
Okay, I love that. Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
All right.
Bye now.
Successful business doesn't happen overnight. It takes a lot of hard work, dedication, and persistence, which is what Coffee Hustle is all about. So there's no quick fixes here, it's just candid conversations featuring other successful business owners.